Hello, welcome back to the channel, and this is a channel where we give you reviews, playthroughs, unboxings. We generally like to talk a lot of bollocks, tabletop gaming in general. And in this video we're going to be talking about an abstract tactical skirmish game. We're going to be talking about Quantum, and in this game you'll be moving your dice around a galactic map. You'll be trying to destroy your opposition to take control of quantum cubes that will allow you to win the game. So in this video we're going to be giving you a very brief overview of the rules, be telling you what we do like, we don't like. And we'll come back and we'll tell you whether or not Quantum is still worth your time and bother about 10 years after it was first released in, I think it's like 2013 or something like that. So remember, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel, right? Hit the like button and all that YouTube bullshit. See you after this. Bollocks. So, Quantum, how'd you play this game? So Quantum is an abstract tactical skirmish game that uses dice as spaceships, right? Each player is going to get a player board, a number of dice. You place one die in the dominance box and set it to 1, and then you'll place the other die in your research box and you'll also set that to 1, right? You also put 2 other dice in your personal supply to the side. Then you'll do a bit of setup where everyone will roll 3 of their dice. The player with the lowest total will choose a starting position, which is usually one of the 4 corners of the map, right? And then they'll place a quantum cube in that spot, and then they'll place 3 of their dice in the orbital positions around that quantum cube. An orbital position is the highlighted space, right? You see there's a number of spaces around the planet. Well, the orbital positions are important because you're going to need to occupy these in order to place quantum cubes, right? So in order to win this game, you're going to have to get rid of all of your quantum cubes, yeah? You're going to have to put them all on the map. You'll do this by taking 3 actions on your turn, right? Some of the actions you can take on your turn are as follows. You can move and attack. You'll be able to move a number of spaces equal to the pips on a dice. If you've got a scout, which is a number 6, you better move 6 spaces, right? If you've got a battle station, which is number 1, then you'll only be able to move 1 space. You can't move diagonally, right? You can only move orthogonally unless the game tells you otherwise. And if you want to attack, you'll use one of your movement points to move halfway into a space next to an opponent, and then you'll have a scrap, yeah? You've got a black and a white die. The attacker will take the black die, the defender will take the white die. You'll roll it, then you'll add it to the strength of your ship, and then the player with the lowest total will win the battle. If the attacker wins, then they'll remove the defender's die off the map. They can either occupy the space they're in or occupy the space that their opponent was in. And if the defender loses, then the attacker will just move back half a space into the space that they were in first of all, right? And if you win a battle as the attacker, you'll be able to increase your dominance by 1, and the defender will decrease their dominance by 1. If you increase your dominance to 6, then you get to place a quantum cube anywhere on the fucking map, right? So it's really important to get stuck in and have a few scraps, you know? So the second action you can do is you can reconfigure. You'll take one of your ships and you'll just re-roll it. If you get the same number as it was before you rolled it, you'll just keep rolling until you get something else. The next one you could do is you can deploy a ship. If you lost a ship in combat, it will go to your scrapyard on your player board, and you will have re-rolled it when you put it in there, yeah? You'll be able to take this ship and you'll be able to place it in an orbital position in a system where you have a quantum cube, you know? Next thing you can do is you can research. You'll use one action to increase your research value by 1. If you get 6, you'll be able to choose one of the 6 cards that are available. The black cards are one-shot uses, the white cards are permanent abilities, and you can also use one of your actions to remove all of the 6 cards and draw 6 new cards. So the final action you could do is you can construct a cube. This is going to cost 2 actions, right? So you can't do this if you've already taken 2 actions already. What you'll do, you'll look at the number on the system. So if it's 7, for instance, you have to make sure that you've got enough pips in that system that equal the number exactly on a certain number of dice. So you might have a 4 and a 3, that would be good enough. And if you did say have a die with a 2 on it, that's fine because you still met quota, yeah? And if you do, you'll be able to place a quantum cube in that system so long as there's space and you haven't already got a quantum cube in that system, right? So the next phase, once you've taken all your actions, you'll be able to advance, and this is where you'll be able to take a card if you met the criteria in the action phase, you know? So each of the ships that you got has got a special ability, right? The battle station gives you a free move attack. The flagship allows you to transport a die, right? You'll be able to take a die that is next to your transporter, and you'll be able to move your transporter and then dump that ship off into one of the surrounding spaces on a planet, right? This means any space that is next to that ship. The destroyer can warp, it can swap places with another ship. The frigate, you can modify, you can change the 4 to a 3 or a 5. The interceptor allows you to move and attack diagonally, right? It's the only time you can do this. And the scout allows you to reconfigure for free, so you'll be able to roll the die to change the ship into something else. So you keep doing doing this, you'll keep moving the ships around trying to build quantum cubes, and as soon as a player has built their last quantum cube, then that player will be the winner of quantum. Do we like that quantum? So the first thing that we really like about this game is the component quality, right? When we got this way back when, 10 years ago, we were shocked at the component quality. It is absolutely fantastic, right? The dice are really chunky. It's got a fantastic insert. The card quality is fantastic. The black and white aesthetic of the game is really, really nice, yeah? And this one sort of flew under the radar. It didn't really set a standard for other games. It was printed twice, I think, done 2 print runs, and then it just disappeared into the ether. So yeah, it's a really fantastic production, and I think this game is highly sought after now. I think it goes for quite a bit of dosh on eBay and the nasty little websites marketplace, right? And you can see why, because it's got a really nice feel to it, you know. So the second thing that we really like about this is the binary opposition of the core abilities of the ships. It's really easy to grasp, you know. You've got the hard nut ship that can't move very fast, and then you've got the agile ship that is really weak in combat, right? So half of the battle is trying to maneuver your ships into position. Whilst the scout isn't particularly great in combat, it's highly maneuverable, so you can move it into the spaces that you want, but you've got to use that special ability and take a punt. Maybe you'll only get a 5, right, instead of that 1 that you are looking for. And even if you do get those battle stations into position, they're not really going to help you out in trying to get quantum cubes on the board, because they're only worth 1. So it's really clever the way that you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So the next thing that we really like about quantum is that players are forced into combat at the optimal moment in the game, yeah? The first few turns just consist of players moving around, getting a couple of quantum cubes on the peripheral edges of the board. And once most of those 2 spot spaces are taken up, there's going to be a massive battle for the remainder of the 1 spot places. And what this means is players aren't going to be frustrated by getting beaten up in the early stages of the game. You're going to be able to build up your fleet. You're going to be able to get a few of those special ability cards bolted on to your ship, and then you're going to be able to use them when it really matters. So there's not going to be any players sort of roaming around getting smashed up early. It all comes together at the end, where you're going to have a massive scrap, bit like football hooligans in the pub after the match. So what don't we like about quantum? So first thing we don't like about quantum is that the latter stages of the game, in fact the last few turns of the game, really just consist of people shouting at one player what to do, because it's so easy to see how somebody can win the game by getting their last quantum cube on the board. If you're playing with more than 2, all those players are just going to be shouting at that person, you've got to do this, otherwise they're going to win, yeah? And this is a major problem for me. It's very, very difficult to get people to keep their mouth shut. People are just going to want to tell the other person what they should do. This is a bit weird. This normally happens in cooperative games, but this sort of turns into like a cooperative experience at the end, because you're all going to be ganging up on the player that has the opportunity to win, and there's not really any way out of it in this game, yeah? So basically you're just gonna have to try and keep your fucking mouth shut, you know what I mean? So the second thing that we don't like about this game is that the dice that we got in the box are really, really greasy. They just feel like they've been smothered in Brill cream. Somebody did tell us this was identified by the publisher, and 3 sets of dice were issued after the first print run, but I must have been stoned or something, because I don't really remember that actually happening. But yeah, the dice do feel like they've been coated in whale sperm. Not that I know what whale sperm feels like, but what I would imagine it to feel like. So the next thing that we don't like about quantum is that some of the cards are bordering on useless, and a lot of the other cards allow you to basically romp home to victory. For instance, you might have the agile ability, which allows you to add +1 movement to your ships. This is huge when you are trying to move your battle station, yeah? Or you might end up getting the brilliant card, which allows you to add 2 to your research at the end of your turn, right? So that means you're basically going to be getting a free card every 3 turns. Or in stark contrast to this, you might have the arrogant card, and it says if at the start of your turn you have more ships on the map than any other player, take 1 extra action. That's going to be really difficult to achieve, especially in the latter stages of the game. Or you might have the righteous card, and it says you don't lose dominance when one of your ships is destroyed. So you're going to want to pick these up at the end of the game, and it's probably going to be too late for that. So yeah, these cards are sort of like a mixed bag due to the random nature of these coming out. You might be able to pick some up, you might not be able to pick some up. And if somebody gets some of the more powerful cards, then more often than not, they're going to kick your ass. Oh, to summarise, is quantum still worth your time and bother today and in the future? So we're going to say, yes, this is a decent tactical skirmish game that offers a few different layers of strategy. You've got the core ship movements contrasted with how powerful they are. Each ship's got its own special ability, and then you can bolt cards onto those special abilities to make your engine even harder. It does suffer from its abstract nature, right? The theme is a little bit hit and miss with this one. I'm sure if it was made today, those dice would have been replaced with miniatures and you'd have dice on the side, yeah? And it has this really horrible end game where everyone's going to be chattering away, discussing how they can stop you from winning. So it sort of turns into a semi-co-op game at the end. But if you can get over these humps, it is unique enough to warrant a look today, right? So there you go. That is Quantum. Remember, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel, hit the like button and all that YouTube bullshit. See you next time.